My fork lingers in midair, heavy with a scoop of sweet potato casserole, just as my father's voice cuts through the subdued murmur of Thanksgiving dinner. His words are sharp, final. You're nothing but a leech. It's time you left this house. Instantly, the dish that had moments ago seemed warm and comforting, turns foreign, almost bitter. The dining room plunges into a silence so profound that even the antique clock in the living room seems louder than ever, ticking steadily as though measuring my humiliation. That same clock, I remember, was repaired only last month with my own money. My eyes search desperately for some sign of compassion on my mother's face. But Denise avoids me. Her gaze locked on the untouched green beans she pushes idly across her plate. Across the table, my 17-year-old sister Tessa grips her glass of water with wide eyes, frozen in shock. What cuts deepest is not just my father's words, but the cruel timing of them. The entire morning had been spent on my feet in the kitchen, basting the turkey, mashing potatoes, and carefully preparing 3 separate pies while the others lounged in the living room, their attention fixed on the football game. Only 20 minutes earlier, I had shared my excitement about a well-earned promotion at work, believing it might spark pride. Instead, as steam still rises from the food I prepared, I'm told my presence is no longer wanted. The irony bites hard. My name is printed on the electric bill that keeps this house bright, on the water bill that filled every glass at this table, on the grocery receipt for every dish served tonight, and on the medical insurance statement that covered my mother's last doctor's visit. Still, I am branded the burden, the one who drains rather than supports. 3 months ago, when Mom was laid off from her job at the accounting firm, I stepped in immediately. Bills began stacking like a wall around us, piling higher than excuses, while Frank's part-time job at the hardware store barely managed to keep up with the mortgage. Without pause, I covered everything else: utilities, food, car insurance, even Mom's ongoing medical treatments. Each passing month brought more accounts switched into my name, and with every transfer, I noticed Dad pulling further away. The authority he once carried with certainty now slipped through his fingers, replaced with bitterness. 2 weeks earlier, I overheard him speaking with Mr. Simmons over the backyard fence, his voice rising with complaint. "It isn't right," he muttered. "A man losing control of his own home. She acts as though she owns the place now." At first I thought he was venting about someone else, until I heard him say my name. Now, as I sit across from him, Frank's jaw is tight, his hand gripping the fork so hard his knuckles pale, waiting for me to break. But I only lift another bite to my lips, chewing without taste. The casserole feels like ash in my mouth, yet I swallow calmly and force another bite. His voice grows louder, impatient, his irritation boiling over. "Did you hear me? You're out by the weekend." My hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but from something deeper shifting within me. Something that feels almost liberating. I lower my fork, fold my napkin neatly by the plate, and raise my eyes to meet his. I understand perfectly. The words fall from my mouth not with anger, not with tears, but with a steady calm that unsettles him. For the first time, he blinks, caught off guard by my composure. The silence stretches, heavy and unyielding, until my mother finally speaks, but her words pierce in another way. "Sophia," she whispers quickly, "you'll still cover the medical insurance this month, won't you? I've got that appointment on Tuesday." And with that, the truth crystallizes, merciless and clear. To them, I am not truly family, not a daughter deserving of love or loyalty, but a bank account, a name on a signature line. I rise quietly, gathering my plate and Tessa's abandoned glass as well. "Of course, Mom," I reply, my voice smooth despite the hollowness spreading inside me. "I'll make sure it's paid before I leave." As I carry the dishes to the kitchen, my mind ticks through the long list of responsibilities I've shouldered. The internet plan I upgraded so Tessa could finish her school projects, the refrigerator I purchased when the old one finally gave out in July, The countless utility bills shifted into my name to avoid disconnection. At the sink, I rinse my plate, pushing scraps down the garbage disposal with mechanical precision. Out the window, my car sits in the driveway, the one possession that is mine entirely, untouched by this house or its debts. At least that will remain when everything else is left behind. Behind me, the sound of Tessa's chair scraping the hardwood reaches my ears. She steps into the kitchen, placing her plate beside mine without daring to meet my gaze. Yet as she sets it down, her fingers brush lightly against my wrist. A fleeting touch that carries more comfort than any words spoken tonight. Hours later, the red digits on my nightstand clock blink 1:18 in the morning as I fold another sweater into my suitcase. Sleep is impossible. My father's voice echoing endlessly in my mind. I have been packing for hours, my motions automatic while my thoughts churn. When I reach into my desk for the stack of financial records, insurance forms, utility invoices, grocery slips to sort what needs to come with me, something unusual catches my eye. Beneath the pile lies a bank statement bearing Frank's name. Odd. I haven't seen a paper copy in months. Not since everything went digital after Mom lost her job. I pull it free. Then another. And another. A small stack I cannot remember ever noticing before. A thin pile of statements stretches back across the last 3 months. Each one belonging to an account I had never even heard of before. It is an account that quietly swelled with money month after month, growing healthier while I was watching my own savings drain away just to keep the lights burning and the water running. My hands tremble as I sink onto the edge of the bed, the pages quivering between my fingers. The rows of numbers blur into a haze until I blink several times, forcing my eyes to sharpen and confront the truth staring back at me. $4,000 in July. $5,000 in August. Nearly $7,000 now. With each page I flip, the sickening truth deepens. Tucked between the statements is a glossy brochure from a boat dealership. Frank's scribbles scrawled along the margins. A circled down payment of $5,500. The words "schedule delivery after Thanksgiving" underlined twice in bright ink. A fishing boat. My chest tightens as I picture it. A gleaming luxury bought with hidden savings, while I was covering Mom's doctor visits and the internet Tessa depends on for schoolwork. Alongside the brochure, a notepad sits filled with dates and reminders. November due dates for utilities, my name beside question marks, and notes like "after bills paid," underlined harshly. It hits me. They were biding their time, waiting until I had paid the November expenses before casting me out. A faint knock drags me from my thoughts, and the door opens just enough for Tessa to slip inside. Her wide eyes sweep across the boxes and open suitcases scattered around the room. "You're really leaving?" she whispers, hovering by the door as if ready to flee at the first sign of danger. I sit among the physical evidence of betrayal, surrounded by belongings reduced to luggage, while she clings to the doorknob as though it shields her from the truth. The imbalance stings her ability to retreat versus my forced departure. "Dad didn't leave me much of a choice," I murmur, sliding the stack of bank papers into my purse. Tessa gnaws her bottom lip nervously. "Mom said they need your room for storage now that Dad's buying that boat." Her casual words land like a blow. "A boat?" My mind scrambles, but she nods quickly, lowering her voice. "The fishing boat he put a deposit on last month. I heard them weeks ago, planning everything how they'd wait until you covered November bills first." My breath catches. "You knew?" The question slips out, jagged and raw. Her eyes fill instantly with tears. "I was too scared. Dad said anyone who told you would be next." The fear etched into her young face leaves me unable to hate her. She's still a child, trapped in the same toxic grip I'm struggling to escape. "There's something else," she whispers, darting glances toward the hallway. "Those medical appointments Mom's been having, the ones you've been paying for?" My chest tightens. "What about them?" Tessa swallows hard. "Last week she came home with her lips swollen. She told Dad the doctor warned her not to use a straw for a couple of days. Tessa mimics Mom's exaggerated eye roll. It wasn't a checkup, Sophia. It was fillers. The room tilts slightly, as the weight of realization crashes down. I've been stretching meals with ramen noodles, counting every dollar, while my mother siphoned my insurance for vanity injections. I grab my phone and pull up my banking app. $763.42 left. Only 3 months ago, that account held more than $9,000. This is what remains after carrying the household on my back. If I'd stayed even one more month, I say hoarsely, there'd be nothing left. Speaking it aloud makes the severity of my situation undeniable. I've been sinking toward financial ruin, treated as nothing more than a machine that prints money. Tessa twists her fingers. Dad also said if you try to take any furniture, he'll report you for theft, even the stuff you bought yourself. Of course he did. My eyes sweep the room, the desk I purchased when I began working from home during the pandemic, the bookshelf I painstakingly assembled, the bedding I splurged on with my very first paycheck. He even called the bank today to get your name removed from the utilities. Tessa adds softly. Time feels suddenly fragile, slipping fast. I need to move quickly, secure housing, guard the little I have left, separate my finances before they bleed me dry completely. I kneel down and pull a shoebox from beneath the bed. Inside, organized neatly, are receipts for everything I have purchased over the years. Each one is stapled to a credit card statement, labeled and dated. The desk, the refrigerator, Tessa's laptop, the carpet in the living room, even utility bills with my name printed clearly as the account holder. A small but undeniable victory in this storm of betrayal. Proof that I am not imagining things. That I have truly been sustaining this family while they plotted behind my back. Tessa watches silently, her face unreadable as I sort through the evidence. Finally, her voice breaks the quiet. Sophia? She asks timidly. Yes? I reply, not looking up from the stack of papers. What would you do if you were me? She asks. If you had to decide between speaking up for what's right or keeping the peace in the only home you know? Her words cut deep. As I shuffle receipts in the middle of the night, I realize I am standing at a crossroads myself. Should I confront them with this evidence, shatter the illusion they've built, and demand accountability? Or should I walk away quietly, taking only the knowledge that I survived, avoiding a scene but leaving them to face the wreckage on their own? There is no simple choice when the people meant to love you have revealed they only value what you provide. I look at my sister, still trapped in the same web. And for the first time, I realize I have no clear answer for either of us. 3 days later, during my short lunch break at the part-time job, my Aunt Phyllis's voice rattles harshly through the phone, every syllable striking like an accusation. Honestly, Sophia? I never thought you would turn your back on your parents right when they needed you most. I squeeze the phone so tightly my knuckles blanch. It has been only 3 days since Thanksgiving. Yet Frank has already spun his version of the story and served it to the rest of the family. Did Dad mention that he threw me out? I ask evenly. He told us you abandoned them after a minor disagreement, she replies, her words dripping with judgment. There's a family meeting at my place this weekend to talk about your behavior. Of course there is a public tribunal where they can twist the truth. I'm sure there is, I answer before cutting the line, unwilling to let her dagger, like tone, sink any deeper. When my shift ends, I head to my friend's apartment. I sink onto the edge of Drew's pull-out couch, which has become my temporary bed. My life has been condensed into 4 hastily packed boxes and 2 battered suitcases leaning against the wall. Everything else, every object I could not cram into the luggage, sits waiting in my car parked below. 25 years of living reduced to whatever I managed to scoop up in 2 frantic hours while my parents sat oblivious in church on Sunday morning. My phone vibrates again. Another cousin demanding to know why I broke Mom's heart. I cannot bring myself to open it. Each new notification is like a fresh wound, my pulse jumping at the thought of which relative will condemn me next. When Drew returns from her late shift at the hospital, she finds me cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and scribbled notes. Operation Financial Freedom, still going strong? She teases, dropping her bag by the door. Almost finished, I answer, tapping a pen against a notebook covered with account details. One by one, I've canceled the automatic payments for their utilities, removed myself from the family's cell phone plan, and called to detach my name from their internet account. What I leave unsaid is how the customer service representative chuckled at the absurdity of someone voluntarily severing ties with their parents' bills. Drew only nods firmly. Good, let them handle their own mess now. The truth of starting from scratch presses hard against my chest. My savings are so thin most financial advisors would shake their heads. 3 months of footing every household expense has left me barely able to cover a security deposit for a small apartment. Never mind the first and last month's rent. You sure your roommate is okay with me staying here? I ask quietly. Max? He's thrilled, Drew replies with a grin. As if on cue, the front door bursts open. Max bounds inside with his oversized golden retriever charging ahead. Sophia, he calls cheerfully. Meet the world's worst therapist. He only accepts snacks as payment. He tosses a tennis ball across the room, and the dog barrels after it, tail wagging furiously. Moments later, the slobbery ball lands in my lap as Baxter fixes me with hopeful eyes. He thinks you need it more than he does, Max says with mock seriousness. And somehow, despite the heaviness in my chest, laughter bubbles out of me for the first time in days. The sound feels strange, almost foreign, but it is a reminder that joy still exists. 5 days after leaving, I sit at Drew's kitchen table, laptop glowing with job postings promising better pay. My current position barely covers essentials. Not the cushion I need to rebuild a life. My phone lights up again. This time with my mother's name. I hesitate, almost letting it slide to voicemail. But something in me says to pick up. What have you done? Denise's voice screeches, frantic and accusatory. The power's out, the internet is gone, and the insurance was declined at my appointment. I inhale slowly, feeling an unexpected calm. I stopped paying for things that weren't my responsibility. Her panic sharpens. You can't just walk away, we are your family. Once, that plea might have undone me, but now all I hear is manipulation. Family doesn't call one of their own a leech at Thanksgiving dinner. I say, startled at my own steadiness. Your father didn't mean it. She softens, trying to smooth the edges. You know how he gets. Yes, I answer. I know exactly how he gets. That's the problem. Then I end the call, placing the phone on the table as carefully as though it were a live flame. Later that evening, Drew leans over my shoulder while I reset passwords for my email and bank accounts. Look at this, she murmurs, pointing to alerts. Suspicious logins on your accounts. We should put fraud alerts in place. The contrast slams into me. While my family treated everything I owned as if it belonged to them by right, Drew asks before borrowing something as trivial as my phone charger. Respect in the smallest gestures. The very thing my own parents denied me. Good idea, I say gratefully. Thank you. That night, I scroll through apartment listings that fall within my meager budget, determined that the next place I live will belong entirely to me. Most of the listings I scroll through are for tiny studios, modest spaces barely large enough for a bed and a desk. Yet to me they represent something I have never truly possessed before, a place that belongs entirely to me, where no voice can declare I am unwelcome. I no longer ask anyone's opinion about neighborhoods, or wonder if the kitchens are spacious enough to host family gatherings. Every decision is mine alone, each choice a step toward reclaiming my independence. The following morning, I walk into a local credit union and open a brand new account with only my name attached. I move every single cent from the old account, the one my parents knew about, into this untouchable space. As I leave the branch, my phone buzzes with a text from Tessa. Mom is looking for your banking details. She says she needs to check something. Don't trust her. I've barely absorbed the warning when my phone lights up again, 6 missed calls from home, all within the last hour. Almost simultaneously, an email alert appears on the screen. Fraud alert. Password reset attempt on your banking application. Heat rushes through me like a wave. They aren't just trying to guilt me into returning. They are actively reaching for the little financial security I have left. The next day, the bank representative's voice carries both professionalism and concern. And the hint of validation soothes me. Miss Mitchell, we have blocked 3 separate password reset attempts from your parents' home address within the past 24 hours. I clutch my phone tightly, pacing across the small spare bedroom in Drew's apartment, which has become my fragile refuge. And you are certain they cannot access anything? I ask. Absolutely. We have flagged your account with enhanced security protocols. Any adjustments will now require in-person verification along with valid photo identification. Relief loosens the knot in my chest as I thank her, carefully jotting her name into my growing notebook of documentation. One by one, I have made similar calls, credit cards secured, utility accounts stripped from my name, medical insurance fortified with multi-step verifications. Even the electric company employee had sounded impressed. Smart move reaching out. Your mother called yesterday trying to restore service in your name without consent. Each confirmation feels like another brick added to the barrier I am building, not a wall born only of anger, though resentment lingers, but one of necessary protection that I alone control. Drew appears in the doorway holding a mug that steams gently. Tea with honey. You need it after all those exhausting calls. I accept with gratitude, wrapping both hands around the comforting warmth. That was the last one. No one can tamper with my accounts unless I authorize it, I say with quiet pride. Drew nods, satisfied. How does it feel? Before I can form an answer, a thunderous pounding shakes the apartment door so violently that hot tea splashes over my fingers. Drew and I exchange alarmed glances. Then I hear it, the unmistakable voice of my father booming through the wood. Sophia, open this door right now. Drew gestures for me to stay where I am, but I'm already moving forward. This confrontation has been waiting like a storm on the horizon since the day I walked out. Each heavy blow against the door feels like a physical strike against my ribs. Through the peephole, my father's face glares back at me, flushed and contorted with rage, a look I have seen him direct at bill collectors and telemarketers, now turned entirely on me. I know you're in there. Another violent slam rattles the frame. You think you can abandon your family and ruin our lives? Across the hall, Mrs. Perkins, the elderly neighbor who once baked cookies for Drew when he first moved in, edges her door open, her eyes widen at the sight of Frank pounding furiously. Young man, she calls, her voice trembling but firm. I've already contacted building security. He whirls on her, sneering. Mind your own business, lady. This is between me and my daughter. She stands straighter, robe clutched tightly. Your behavior becomes my business when it disrupts our peace. Frank pivots back toward the door, his voice dropping into a low, dangerous growl. Sophia, if you don't open this door right now, I'll... The threat turns into action as his boot crashes against the lock, splintering the wood. Mrs. Perkins gasps loudly and retreats into her apartment. My hands shake as I press the phone to my ear, speaking softly to the emergency dispatcher while the pounding continues. Just as my father rears back again, the metallic ding of the elevator echoes down the hall, followed by the heavy steps of building security. Sir, step away from the door immediately. The guard commands. This is my daughter's place. I have every right to be here, Frank bellows. You have no right to damage property or disturb residents, the guard replies sharply. Police are already on their way. The rest of his furious rant is swallowed by the wail of sirens outside. Moments later, I peer through the peephole and watch as 2 uniformed officers march my father down the corridor, his hands cuffed behind his back while he continues shouting that I am destroying our family. When one of the officers returns, clipboard in hand, I give my statement clearly, recounting the financial manipulation, the unauthorized account access attempts, and today's violent episode with the same precision I've used in my growing documentation notebook. His nameplate reads Rodriguez, and he listens with quiet concentration before asking, "Would you like to press charges for the attempted break-in?" The question lingers in the tense air as Drew reappears from speaking with building management about the damaged door. "Yes," I answer firmly, though my voice is soft. "And I'd like to request a restraining order." Later, I stand silently at the window, watching the patrol car roll away with my father in the back seat, his rage muffled by glass and distance. A wave of conflicted thoughts surges within me. Was filing the report too severe a response after years of manipulation, or was it simply the first step in finally protecting myself from further harm? Drew's hand rests gently on my shoulder. "Max is picking up some security cameras for the entryway," he says quietly. The reassurance settles me. For the first time in years, safety no longer feels like an illusion. "We'll set them up tonight," Drew says, and I nod, grateful for the kind of practical help that comes without strings attached. My phone vibrates almost immediately with a message from Tessa. "Mom took your laptop and camera out of your room. She said they're collateral for what you owe them." The words hit my stomach like a stone dropping into deep water. Another theft, this time of the few possessions I truly valued. Layered on top of years of emotional robbery. I type quickly. "Do you know where she took them?" Tessa's reply pings back almost instantly. "Heard her talking to someone at Parkway Pawn. Said she got $300 for both." My throat burns as I show Drew the text. Rage rises hot and unrelenting. Those items were worth well over $2,000. "Do you have the receipts? Serial numbers?" Drew asks, her voice steady. I nod, thinking of the careful records I have always kept for tax purposes. Every detail is accounted for. Barely an hour later, Officer Williams arrives and takes my report with deliberate seriousness. She examines the receipts, notes the serial numbers, and reassures me. "Pawning property that doesn't belong to you is a criminal offense. We'll contact the shop and arrange for recovery." Her professional tone holds a thread of compassion that steadies me. For the first time in years, the system I always believed was tilted against me seems to lean in my favor. The shift is dizzying, almost too hopeful to trust. That evening, my phone lights up over and over with calls from relatives I haven't spoken to in months. I finally play Aunt Sarah's voicemail. "Sophia, sweetheart. I just heard about Frank's arrest. I'm so sorry, we had no idea things were so serious. Apparently the neighbors who watched my father's outburst have begun sharing what they saw, and the carefully crafted story my parents tried to spread is unraveling." As I steady the ladder while Max mounts the new security camera above Drew's door, another text from my mother arrives. Her message drips with entitlement. "I had to pawn your laptop and camera to cover the electric bill you abandoned us with. Parkway Pawn on 4th Street. You owe me 300 plus interest." My jaw tightens as I hand the phone to Drew. She shakes her head, disbelief etched across her face. "The audacity is almost impressive," she mutters, returning it to me. I save the message as evidence, but my anger is no longer about her accusations. What cuts deepest is realizing how long I convinced myself I deserved this treatment. That revelation hardens into resolve as I finish securing the camera. This time, I am the one observing, not the one being ambushed. 3 days after filing the theft report, my mother finally calls. I have been expecting this moment. "Sophia," she begins, her voice trembling with rehearsed hesitation. "I've been thinking about everything, and I want to suggest a compromise." I remain silent, letting the pause grow heavy. In the background, I recognize the faint sound of the same game show that once filled our living room each weekday afternoon. "If you drop that ridiculous theft report, you can come home. Your room is still waiting, exactly as you left it." The practiced rhythm of her words is unmistakable. I can almost picture my father standing behind her, nodding along in approval. And Sophia, she adds, her tone sharpening into false concern. Frank and I believe we should address your state of mind. Lately, you've been unstable. Our friends and relatives would understand better if we framed this as a breakdown rather than believing your accusations. The threat is clear: withdraw the charges or be painted as unwell. I inhale slowly, steadying my voice. I have copies of every bill I've paid over the last 6 months. I have bank records showing transfers to your account. I have texts requesting money for cosmetic procedures you pretended were medical necessities. Do you want me to bring all of that forward as evidence? The silence that follows tells me everything I need to know. The next morning, Officer Williams escorts me to my parents' house. Her patrol car parked in the driveway is a statement in itself, a quiet announcement to every neighbor who peeked out their windows when my father spread his lies. Curtains twitch as we walk to the door. My mother opens it, her practiced smile faltering at the sight of the officer. Mrs. Mitchell. Officer Williams says firmly, I'm here to accompany Sophia while she collects her belongings. Aston. Inside, the house feels smaller than memory, the air dense with unspoken tension. My mother shadows me as I go straight to my old room, Officer Williams close behind. I've brought documentation of every contribution I made. I explain, handing the officer a folder I've prepared: utilities, groceries, medical bills, even the refrigerator I purchased in July, each receipt neatly included. Officer Williams flips through the papers, her eyebrows rising. You covered all of this? She asks. Yes. For the past 6 months, ever since my mother lost her job. Mom appears in the doorway, arms crossed tight. That furniture belongs to the family, Sophia. You can't just take it all. I reach into my bag and pull out another stack of receipts, holding them up for both her and the officer to see. I have receipts for every single item I'm taking. Would you care to look at them? I ask steadily, holding up the folder. Officer Williams studies my mother's face carefully, then flips back through the stack of financial records in her hand. The surprise in her eyes is impossible to miss. Mrs. Mitchell, these documents clearly show that your daughter has been almost entirely responsible for supporting this household. My mother's lips part as if she wants to argue, but no words come. Instead, she turns abruptly and retreats down the hallway, disappearing without a single reply. I continue my work with methodical focus, folding clothes, boxing up books, and gathering the last of the items that are indisputably mine. Through my bedroom window, I notice neighbors scattered across their porches, feigning interest in watering flowers or shuffling through mail. Their sideways glances make it obvious they are watching every moment. Let them watch. Let them witness the truth for themselves. By the time the final box is tucked into my car, I stand at the front door, key poised in my hand for one last lock. That is when the sound of an engine makes me look up. My other car, the one I had parked safely at Drew's building, rolls into the driveway with my father behind the wheel. My stomach sinks. I had forgotten the spare key, the one I had once entrusted to them for emergencies. He climbs out, dangling the keys smugly in his hand, his expression triumphant. We need to talk about what you owe us before you drive this away, he says, gesturing toward the car. I set down the box and reach calmly into my purse, pulling out another folder I have kept ready for this exact situation. This is the title, I say, holding up the crisp paper. And this is the registration, both entirely in my name. Officer Williams steps forward immediately. Sir, this vehicle is registered to Sophia. You must hand over the keys at once. The color drains from my father's face as his eyes dart between the documents and the officer's firm stance. His fingers tighten around the key ring. I paid for her college. Her braces. 18 years of. The keys, Mr. Mitchell. Officer Williams interrupts, extending her hand. For a long moment, he hesitates, then slowly his grip loosens, and the keys fall with a soft metallic jingle into her palm. She passes them to me, and for the first time in my life, I see my father completely deflated. The man who once towered over everyone shrinks before my eyes, diminished and small. Come near me or anything that belongs to me again, I say, my voice calm but carrying iron, and I will file for a restraining order. I slide into the driver's seat, adjust the mirror, and turn the ignition. As I ease away from the curb, I notice the neighbors still standing outside. Mrs. Henderson from next door no longer pretends to be checking her mailbox. Instead, she stands openly in the yard, phone in hand, likely already passing along the scene she has just witnessed. In my rearview mirror, Tessa lingers in the doorway. One foot still anchored inside the house, one tentative hand raised toward me. Her expression is filled with sorrow, but behind it flickers something else, perhaps admiration, or maybe the first spark of strength she has yet to claim. 3 blocks away, my phone buzzes with a new message. It is from Tessa. They're blaming me now. What should I do? I slow at a red light, staring at the screen as the familiar 3 dots appear and vanish, her hesitation as heavy as my own once was. My sister, the one person innocent in all of this, now stands exactly where I used to be, bearing the crushing weight of our parents' manipulation. The light changes to green, horns blare behind me, but still I sit unmoving, torn between past and future. Sunlight now filters through sheer curtains I chose myself, scattering warm patterns across the hardwood floors of my apartment. 3 months have passed since I left my parents' house with Officer Williams' card safely tucked in my wallet, and the transformation still startles me. My desk is organized with bills neatly stacked in a fan-like spread: electricity, water, internet, renter's insurance, all in my name, all paid without fear of hidden traps or sudden demands. No one else's emergencies lurk between these envelopes. My bank statement, open beside them, shows modest but steady growth each month. The emergency fund I once drained to keep others afloat is slowly filling again. My target is 6 months of stability, and I have already reached 2. The quiet joy of making decisions without defense feels like an unfamiliar luxury. Last weekend I painted an accent wall a rich teal color, without seeking approval or hearing warnings about future regret. The freedom to decide something as small as paint has never felt larger. A year later, the hum of conversation and the rise of laughter fill my apartment. I carry a golden brown turkey to the dining table, smaller than the one I cooked last Thanksgiving but roasted to perfection. The irony of me hosting Thanksgiving now is not something I overlook. Do you need help with anything? Tessa asks softly, hovering near the kitchen counter, with a mixture of eagerness and uncertainty. My sister appears different. Taller in a way that has nothing to do with her height, but with the quiet confidence that has begun to grow in her since she stepped out from under our parents' control. Your presence here is more than enough, I tell her, and the words leave my lips easily, without calculation. How different this feels compared to the exhausting mental ledgers I used to keep, measuring my value only by how much I paid for or sacrificed. I move around my small apartment with a grace and freedom that would have felt impossible just 1 year ago. The dishes on my table may not form a perfect set, and the dining table itself is secondhand, slightly worn at the corners. But every single item has been chosen by me, not handed down with strings attached or acquired under pressure. There is comfort in the mismatched plates, in the way this space reflects my choices alone. As we take our seats, Drew raises his glass with a warm smile. To found family, and to boundaries that are worth protecting. His words settle over the room like a blessing. Max and Tessa lift their glasses as well, their faces lit by the glow of candlelight. Tessa looks brighter these days, her shoulders straighter, her laughter freer. Since moving into her college dorm 3 months earlier, she has bloomed in ways I had only hoped for. I helped her with the confusing maze of financial aid paperwork and housing applications, turning the lessons I had learned through hardship into a foundation she could step onto more easily. Later that evening, as we sit side by side at my kitchen counter, sorting through another stack of scholarship applications, Tessa breaks the silence with a hushed update. They lost the house last month, she says, her eyes fixed on the page in front of her. Dad keeps blaming the bank, the economy, anyone except himself. Right now they're staying with Uncle Rick, but he's already making hints that they need to find their own place soon. I nod slowly, my eyes drifting to the bookshelf in the corner. On it sits a small stack of unopened envelopes, 5 in total, each one bearing my parents' handwriting. None have been opened. Setting boundaries doesn't mean I never feel the pull of curiosity, the urge to read their words. But I remind myself that some doors are better left closed. Tessa continues, her pen tapping lightly against the edge of the scholarship form. They still blame you for everything, Sophia. But the truth is, they're just dealing with what would have happened eventually. Your money only delayed the collapse. It was inevitable. However, as I highlight a key passage on the housing assistance application, I can't help but reflect on the choices that brought us here. Helping Tessa build her independent life has been one of the few things that makes the past sacrifices feel worthwhile. And yet, I still wrestle with the lingering question. Should I respond to the attempts my parents keep making to reach out? Is cutting them off completely the healthiest option? A clean break from years of betrayal? Or is there some value in allowing carefully measured contact under my own rules? What do you do when the very people who should have been your protectors seek entry back into your life only after you fought so hard to build peace without them?